I was watching a video this morning by Lacigreen called the C word. The C word being cunt. And she got this message from someone, one of her viewers, saying that this woman was upset because someone had been calling her a cunt. And how distressing she found it. And Lacigreen's response to that, which is quite a robust response I thought, was that the origins of the word cunt lie in kind of female strength, really. And since the idea of female strength was frowned upon in medieval times, apparently, so Lacey says, and who am I to disagree, the word cunt became something that was to be repressed, or the female power would be repressed and suppressed. So cunt became a swear word as a result, or became a term of abuse, an insult. And I'm sure there's other etymological origins for it as well. But what I'm interested in relation to that is about meaning and meaningfulness. And if I can just declare my hand before I start, actually, the word cunt is one of my favourite words. It's my favourite swear word, apart from possibly twat. My best friend, who I've known for years, I often refer to him as a cunt, and he calls me a cunt. And when I'm with a group of my oldest friends, we tend to refer to each other as a bunch of cunts constantly. It's a playful insult, but it's also a term of endearment and affection, because these are the people that I care most about amongst my friends, and yet I do call them a bunch of cunts. So that out of the way. In terms of the word cunt and meaning, what I'm thinking about here is in relation to an understanding of meaning and meaningfulness that locates it within the body. And I'm most influenced here, I suppose, by work on embodied cognition by people like George Lakoff and Mark Johnson in their book Philosophy in the Flesh, but specifically Mark Johnson's stuff himself, his solo writing. He did a great book called The Meaning of the Body. The Meaning of the Body, and an earlier one called The Body in the Mind, basically arguing that this meaning, this thing we have called meaning and meaningfulness, ultimately derives from the particularities of the human body, what it is to have this kind of body, this kind of sensorimotor system, these kind of senses, to be able to do these kind of things that we need to do to stay alive, and have always needed to do to stay alive in evolutionary time. And meaning emerges from that property. And he's talking about it in two related ways. In a kind of primary way, that the meaning of our perceptions is the function that those perceptions serve. So, for example, it's necessary for me to have a set of early warning systems and sensory engagements with the world that's appropriate to the kind of body I have. So I need to be able to see the ground under my feet. I need to be able to interpret the part of the universe that corresponds to the ground in the way I do to allow me to navigate it. And the meaning of my perception is the function that perception serves to keep me alive and awake. Stops me walking into trees, my ears give me information about certain events in the world around me. So the meaning of these perceptual engagements are, as I say, the function they serve. But coming out of that, and attached to that, is a whole set of poetic, metaphorical, metonymic extensions of that. So not only is the concrete physical experience of the world understood meaningfully as perceptions, but also all of the abstract ideas we have, like truth and justice and love and war, all of the abstract ideas and theories are understood and given meaning through extensions of that. So justice, for example, is understood by relation to a thing like balance. Balance is an completely embodied sense. Here I am balancing on two legs, here I am balancing on one leg. If I lean in one direction or the other, I'll fall over. And my understanding of balance is conceptualized through the mobilization of a fully embodied, meaningful engagement like that, fully engaged, a meaningful perception like balance. And so you get scales of justice, that kind of thing. That's just one example. All of the rest of the abstract stuff also falls out of embodiment. Okay, that's meaning. When people like Mark Johnson are talking about it, this embodied cognition stuff, they tend to talk about generic bodies, universal bodies, the body in the mind, the meaning of the body. So it's very generic. We're all humans, we all have the same sensorimotor systems, we all have the same sense organs, we all see paths that we walk along, we all hear the sounds of cars, we're all got the same kinds of set of perceptions going on for us pretty much. But there are distinctions, and these distinctions tend not to feature yet in the literature on cognitive embodied cognition. And those distinctions, some of those distinctions that might be significant is in the difference of male and female bodies. I am gradually coming to the word cunt, I'll get there eventually. One of those distinctions is to do with that. Metaphors are drawn from the body, so the justice metaphor is drawn from the bodied sense of balance. But there are specific parts of bodies that are different in men and women. And they have their own set of metaphorical and poetic engagements, their own set of unconscious metaphors being deployed to allow us to think in certain ways. And obviously the key difference between men and women in this case is primary sexual characteristics, the existence of cunts and pricks, put it bluntly. And one area that kind of spills out on this, which hasn't really been fully joined up with embodied cognition yet, is different kinds of thinking and different kinds of writing. And there's a set of ideas to do with female thinking and female writing called ecriture feminine. Belongs to a school of French feminist philosophy and literature, associated with Julia Kristeva, Helen Sisu, Lucia Rigare, a few others. Which is this, well, as I say, it's a recognition that a lot of the language and the ideas that we have, whilst a lot of them are universal, there are occasions when language and ideation draws more significantly on male primary sexual characteristics for its metaphors. And that's usually the case, according to these writers, in certain kinds of rationalist writing and certain kinds of scientific writing, not exclusively. In writing which tries to line up ideas into a straight line like a massive erection and then thrust this idea into the world. And there certainly is some evidence for that. I mean, if you go back to the origins of science in somebody like Francis Bacon, his writing is full of those kind of metaphors. It's all about, penetrating the earth and holding the earth down and spreading it apart so you can thrust knowledge into it. There's a lot of that kind of very aggressive kind of rape language going on in that. And what these French feminists are arguing for is a different kind of writing, ecriture feminine, female writing, which instead of drawing on those male metaphors of penises and erections and thrustings and penetrations, draws more on female metaphors of interiority, of the bloody chamber, as it features in one piece of writing, of interiority, of infolding, of the womb, of the vagina, of the empty space which contains the potential for development. The idea of spaces which are pregnant with meaning almost. They're empty but they're pregnant with meaning. It's that kind of idea. You find it in writers like Bracker Ettinger, who writes about the matrixial border space as an alternative to kind of logos, penis, thrusting writing. Matrixial border space contains the reminder that the word matrix comes from a word meaning womb, so it's womb-like writing. So there are a series of kind of cunt metaphors in train. I mean, there are some difficulties with it. One of the difficulties is, I think, is that female writing is associated with females, at least, and all kinds of political considerations come into that point. Because one of the things that's all over ecriture feminine is just because it draws on female metaphors and writes through the idea of a female body doesn't mean to say that only women can do it. In fact, some of my favourite writers, like James Joyce, are cited as good examples of people who write through the female body as well as the male body, using male and female metaphors and styles of writing. And some of the politics plays out pretty weirdly. I mean, certainly in one of my earlier videos, when I was talking about feminism, I got a whole series of messages and comments from one user calling me a mangina, He's very critical. Just fine. But a mangina is like a man who's a cunt, I guess. But it has it's carefully crafted. I like it as a word, actually. It's a carefully crafted word, I think, which is intended to deliver the same kind of burden of insult to a man that a word like cunt does to a woman, I suppose. It takes a part of yourself, for a man, your manliness, your penis, and inverts it into a vagina. Interesting. What a bunch of cunts. Anyhow.